Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Santa Monica, California, United States of America, June 10th, 2021. Today, a spontaneous sharing is unintended to be in a series like this, but part 5 of my personal journey that I'm titling Uncertain Futures, and something to do with this ongoing dance with death and mortality, unpredictability, this incessant discontinuity hardwired into the fabric of our lives. If I may just create a bit of a serendipity, spoken word collage of spontaneity and just truth-telling from my heart to yours. Hopefully it co-resonates in some place in you that inspires your beauty, your passion, your rave to scream out loud and silent simultaneously at this crucifixion of beauty. And can we fight the satanic evil, warrioress? What a moment, right? So if I may, I'm going to take my time today, see if I can get through it. It'll be emotional. I want to do a reading from my new book, Extinction X-Rated, an auto-fictional dark satire about good and evil. Quote Carl Jung in the front, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." Where to begin? Where to begin? Well, let me begin right here with a couple of simple announcements. I've decided I want to come out of digital isolation. I am soon to be, by choice, moving to the island of Maui, a bit of a third, fourth tier home over the decades. Destination not yet known. Complicated move, but for those of you who are in my life close and know it, I'm making a choice. Thank you very much, and thank you especially you special people who have offered financial donations to me through my nonprofit, the Buddha Foundation, through Patreon, and through PayPal. Indispensable, beautiful support at this moment. I would call it, with all due humility, epic challenge. I hope to have some form of drop-in, easy to access retreat, co-creative retreat space on the island, and as well, when I leave, if I leave, God willing, in the middle of July for Bali, after I have been told to get the second CT scan for the diagnoses that came on April 11th of an acutely enlarged ascending aorta aneurysm that I have decided not to intervene at this point with the radical open heart 10-hour, 10-person, very complicated, intimidating surgery. I'm not ruling it out in the future, but it's very highly unlikely that I will do it. So I'm going to Maui out of choice to be in a community of people, reunite with people I've known over the decades, find a location that's sacred, hopefully have my friends, pray my daughter come out and to commune, and a few other friends who will be there to support, to protect, to enhance, to laugh, and to joy. I want to sequester, I want to tune out narratives of my own so-called health. I want to do what I did as a monk both in Burma and in the Sri Lanka era of my monastic life on the island hermitage, of radically inclusive, sensitive, co-creative expansion of the beautiful aspects of my own Dhamma. I want to focus on aorta healing and cognitive awakening and develop a freedom post-mortality. Should I die, you're going to die along with me at some point. So will the earth, to state the obvious. And my time is very urgent. So that's the plan. Thank you from my heart for your support. Indispensable, really, from my heart to yours. And equal to that, I'm going to do all that I can to continue these live streams, quite frankly, and I don't say this with ego or pride, but they're my way of processing a very, very complex edge of interior emotions right now in psychology. They're brand new. I would say that they're both epic and urgent and surreal simultaneously. We're all facing it. All of us have our struggles, the pandemic, lockdowns, lock-ins, loss, lies, propaganda. I mean, it's unthinkable. It's not just noise anymore. It's terror porn. The lies, the sociopathy. What's new, right? Adolf Hitler, World War I, II, Stalin, Mao Zedong, the genocide of Tibet. I mean, yes, don't just focus on, this is not a complaint. This isn't just some existential compassion-driven scream. Yes, it's that too. But I feel, and I want to get into my personal thing right here. I feel, let me just say this. I took a walk yesterday and I said, Alan, spontaneously say what you feel. I have a habit of talking to myself. And I kept repeating over and over in the most natural tone, done, you're done, you're done. It wasn't morbid, you're done, you're done. You're done with your human life. You're done, you're done. I was doing it with spoken word, rhyming, poetic. You're done, you're done. It's over and done. And it wasn't morbid. I just wanted to hear the spontaneity of a truth that was deeper than my own reasoning and my own thoughts about what's right. The narrative of longevity, surgery, live at all costs, live for the ones that love you, stay alive, teach. You've got an epic opportunity to use this as a catalyst to go all the way. Okay, rah, rah, rah. So I want to include once a week, along with my rave to help stabilize and liberate in my own self-therapeutic process, these live streams. I pray I continue both until the 24th of June and then leave, and then soon thereafter hopefully resume. It takes a very sacred space to do these things. It's not as easy as just a camera and a cable net or a Wi-Fi lead. It's a very sensitive process. I think you would know that. But I want to start a weekly, I used to do a thing called the World Dharma Forum, where it was an interactive question, dialogue, communion, elevation, spoken word Dharma group meditative space, and I loved it. I want to resume that online, probably with a small group of 5, 10, if there's interest, 15 people, on a weekly basis. I'm not sure which day it'll be announced, and I hope you will participate, because I want to hear from you, not just me talking to me through the camera of me at you across digital time. And text is one thing, but you can't lick it, you can't touch it, you can't kiss it, you can't commune with it. I want to meet and see and feel the best of possible through the Zoom. So I'm going to do that soon. If you're interested, you can let me know, but there'll be an announcement at some point early on in my time on Maui. I have the CT scan scheduled for the middle of July. God willing, if it hasn't increased and my time on Maui is rad, I'll probably stay if it's possible, but it's so expensive out there. I'm living like a monk. I'm living on donations. The idea of renting a car at these astronomical prices, the rentals out there, which are, people are gifting things at a discounted price, but it's still over the top. Whereas Bali, it's sacred, the price is right. I hate to say those words. I know a lot of people both on Maui and in Hawaii and also in Bali. But my desire is to commune right now, to meditatively commune and speak to those secret, sacred spaces of my own interior and do all I can. If I'm alive for a month or 2 or 3, I don't want to have a morbid, prediction of my longevity or the absence of continuity. But the doctors here, the surgeons, not to repeat fear porn, but they say you're on a ticking bomb. And if you don't do surgery, you will die. So there you go. And so my book, I want to read from it, but I also want to interweave within it some aspects of the writing of it, the conception of it, the present time emotions and psychology of my life. It's really quite a mind bender to understand the significance of this, because I'm in this room, and the book starts with being in this room. The whole thing is about being in this room. It was never intended to be a book. And I'll explain that. It was, for those of you who know me and know my talks and my sharings, and of course in more intimate settings with friends, both in Burma and in Bali, where I've been spending the last couple of years, and also in the time I've been here in Los Angeles for almost a year now, based on a life well lived. I feel my life is well lived. That due to a set of perceptions, one of which is extinction, which has been through a few friends and my own semi-deep research into the science and the data, trying to connect the dots in the environmental sphere and the human sphere and the interconnectedness of this anthropocentric, the human-driven, radical collapse that we're in right now, economically, environmentally. I mean, the great environmentalist philosopher from Canada, David Suzuki, who used the graphic image in his own investigation of the environmental collapse that we're in. We're like a human species of 8 billion people in a car driving headlong into a brick wall, arguing with each other on what should be on the radio, where we should be sitting. Meanwhile, pedal to the metal, to the brick wall of the 6th mass extinction. And some are saying we're already over the cliff. Based upon that, based upon that perception alone, again, just, our beloved young Swede, the 17-year-old Greta Thunberg, who addressed the United Nations, was it back September 19th, 2019, telling 193 civilized leaders of the civilized globe that we're all sitting and dancing on today, that we are in a catastrophic environmental collapse. And I want no more of your fairy tales of money and growth. And yet, here it is, 2 years hence. Here we are, 2 years further down the road, that much closer to that David Suzuki brick wall. And yet here we are talking about vaccinations, pandemics, lies, the sociopathy of Dr. Evil Anthony Fauci that's unthinkable. The dimension of how he looks at the global audience, and in bold-faced lies that have been revealed through so many different media sources now, with receipts and emails. It's like, what in the hell is going on? And then, of course, all the porno politics of my own country here in America. You wonder who to believe, what to believe, when to believe it, how to use deep reasoning and inquiry, and what is there a reason to live for? And of course, today my talk is based upon trust and courage in a time when things are breaking. And I really asked myself, which when I came here last August of 2020, I didn't intend to write a book. I was in this sacred space gifted to me, which I'll explain in a reading here shortly. The question came up, and it's been repeatedly coming up for me the last several years, and even more so at this very second, increasing in intensity in the coming days, no doubt. Because I had no idea that I'd be diagnosed with this so-called fatal illness unless I undertook took this almost fatal surgery, of why stay alive. And so let me read and then speak throughout it. And may I invite you to hang, have a cup of tea, coffee, light a joint, do a little dosing, whatever you need to do, meditate, open your eyes, open your heart. Thank you for being a part of my life. It's all very temporary right now for all of us. Certainly in my case, it's very temporary. I'm taking no hostages, and I am being without noise as much as humanly possible. I'm pretty much unvarnished as it is, pretty much a straight talker. But right now, it's straight up. And again, may I encourage you to encourage me, to encourage who's listening. I never intended this to be a book. It was, I wish I could share more in those upcoming small World Dharma Forum Zoom Q&As that are going to come up. We can talk about it. But I sat in this house asking deeply, why stay alive? And yet here I am now at a new iteration, a new dimension of that same question. So I know nothing of who I am right now when I did this. So it begins with the first chapter, and it's 64 chapters that are intersecting based upon what I call a literary mandala. It's both a literal narrative, at the same time symbolic of the dimensions of Lobha, Dosa, Moha, Metta, Karuna, Panya, and freedom. Good and bad, right and wrong, love and hate, truth and lies, good and evil. The classic mandala of intersecting energies, which if we are courageous enough, we can play with the holism and the unification, if you will, of dualities and possibly transcend the invenerating, deeply conditioned circuitry of causality that is embedded with dumb contracts, to use the analogy of a decentralized, blockchain, a cognitive blockchain called samsara. There are dumb contracts in it called evil, really stupid contracts within it called genocide, really satanic, smart, evil, dumb contracts called the Holocaust, the Anthropocene, extinctions, So, okay, it's not just playing with the concepts of holism and unity. It's like, I don't want to be a participant in the circuitry of evil. That's the central theme of my life, and that's why I became a Buddhist monk. Let me begin. I'm sitting alone in the house of my dear friend Robert Chardoff. The Oscar-winning producer of 39 feature films, including The Right Stuff, Raging Bull, New York, New York, They Shoot Horses, Don't They? The Gambler, Valentino, and Rocky, the most influential boxing film of all time, featuring, of course, Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa. Winning the Academy Award for Best Picture was a total surprise, Bob once told me. The New York Times had given it one of the most scathing reviews ever. But that very night at the premiere, to our astonishment, Rocky, our, quote, sentimental slum movie, got a standing ovation. As the film swept the nation, Bob went on to explain, audiences stood up everywhere, aroused by Rocky's spirit of invincibility and fight. Rocky created a new American archetype, Bob continued, that of believing in yourself with zero self-doubt, a tireless courage with no obstacle, physical or psychological, too great to overcome. Most of all, Bob would encourage me, fight for your dream, Alan, and never give up. That was the Bob I came to know, and so much more. Yet, as I sit in his house of Rocky, in the isolation of mandatory lockdown, with millions of COVID deaths worldwide, I'm devoid of both fight and hope. Ironically, I felt a similar pain at about the same time as Rocky's release when I left this very city of Los Angeles with the intention of ordaining as a Buddhist monk in Burma to enter my own ring and the fight of my life. At the time, there were no other options, so it seemed. Either suffocate in Los Angeles, caged in a claustrophobic, capitalistic culture as an opiate-dependent artist, trying to process my struggle through alcohol, yoga, and painting, or risk entering a remote totalitarian country ruled by a ruthless military dictator and meditate in a monastery for the rest of my life. And here it is nearly 50 years later. After thousands of hours of meditation, mindfulness, and MDMA-assisted psychotherapy, and the world has only gotten worse, and my life too. As a result of this truth, the options I set forth for myself today are clear. Either find a reason to live or end my life before midnight. It blows my mind that I knew nothing about what I sit with today when I was writing this, and I didn't even intend to write it as a book. And that's what really kind of scares me a bit. Am I just living out the final minutes of a destiny that I feel somewhere deeper than my own cognition? Suicide, or mindful euthanasia, as I prefer to call it, has been on my mind for some years now. Beyond the pandemic, mass paranoia, and the porno politics of America's psychosis, it's been a tough time. Among the challenges, multiple deaths, both parents only months apart. My beloved meditation teacher of 40 years, my godmother whom I adored, my 2 remaining aunts, 3 best men friends gone, all unexpectedly. There were other challenges as well, a betrayal and the collapse of a relationship just months before marriage, a thinly veiled death threat, a murder in the family followed by a suicide with a bullet to the head, a torturous legal battle for access to my daughter, the loss of a lucrative book and film deal canceled based on lies and distortions, a devastating case of the virus, and with it the loss of smell and taste, along with ongoing chest and joint pains. No idea of the aorta at this point. A debilitating case of spinal osteoporosis requiring neck and back braces, and the sleepless nights every night, unless I take the meds. In truth, I could manage these annoyances, more or less. But the deeper despair was existential and far greater. that of societal collapse and near-term extinction, the absolute end of life as we know it. To amplify matters, the doomsday clock was moved up to 100 seconds before midnight. What is the doomsday clock? On their website we read, quote, founded in 1945 by the University of Chicago scientists who had helped develop the first atomic weapons in the Manhattan Project, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists created the doomsday clock 2 years later using the imagery of apocalypse, midnight, and the contemporary idiom of nuclear explosion, countdown to zero, to convey threats to humanity and the planet. The decision to move or to leave in place the minute hand of the doomsday clock is made every year by the Bulletin's Science and Security Board in consultation with its board of sponsors, which includes 8 Nobel laureates. The clock has become a universally recognized indicator of the world's vulnerability to catastrophe from nuclear weapons, climate change, and disruptive technologies in other domains. It's really crazy to me because the doctors have told me that you've got a ticking clock in your heart. And they've advanced that to a ticking bomb. And here I'm writing about the doomsday clock 8 months ago, not knowing this, and I'm going like, holy moly. Allow me to continue here. I'm asking myself, could it be true that 300 years of human life and millions of non-human species too are in our final few seconds? Frankly, from my own research, 100 seconds felt generous, not only from an out-of-control contagion or an economic depression the likes of which the world will have never seen, or Trump's revenge from a, quote, fraudulent election, or the psychological toll of long-term lockdowns, or the fallout of mandatory vaccinations, or the incessant sirens from break-ins, assaults, and robberies, or the tsunami of communist-infused totalitarianism engulfing the world, or the Great Reset and the corporate capitalistic coup well underway. But the elephant in the room was how many informed people are saying that the climate collapse is irreversible. The Great New Deal is propaganda, mass starvation is near, and moreover, there's absolutely no way of stopping our fetishism for consumerism, the death of nature, and human extinction. It's a heartful, isn't it? May I invite you to meditatively breathe with me here. I had no real anticipation of this talk outside of a few hours ago. I am into radical spontaneity. I hope you're with me. May I invite you to sit back. If it's too much, obviously make that choice, tune out. If you're with me, tune in, hang in. The courage, the support is beautifully felt. Thank you from my heart for being here in this process with me. As I continue, David Suzuki, the preeminent environmental scientist and climate expert, was even more blunt in his bleak prognosis of the future of humanity, saying, quote, "Us earthlings are in a giant car heading towards the brick wall of self-annihilation, and everyone's arguing over where they're going to sit." It's a fascinating image. I mean, I don't know about you. We'll pause for a minute and just think of, they have a Buddhist Pali word called sanya and papancha, perception and the proliferation of illusion-based projections upon seeing, hearing, smelling, and the narrations of conditioning made real on the eye and the mind and the ear and the tongue and the nose on the palette of infinity. And there we are, as David Suzuki's talking, arguing over where to sit, what book to read, what book to write, who makes what, who pays taxes, who's right, who's wrong, spiritual propaganda, yoga asanas done right or wrong, artificial intelligence, aliens, UFOs, DMT, wonderment, mystical adventure, meditation, the pandemic. It's unthinkable all the ways in which we proliferate in this global car without a windscreen, without wheels, but simply all based upon the vehicle of a human sphere called planet Earth. Here we are driving, knowingly and unknowingly, around a sun star. That, based upon our own blind fetishism to stuff, things, prime time delivery from Amazon, even this book, the consumption of oil, fossil fuels, renewables, the Green New Lie, as Derek Jensen writes in his new book. It's unthinkable that we're in this car and here we are, blinded by the darkness, staring headlong at the back of Aristotelian's cave, taking those images, fighting over the music and SoundCloud and YouTube and likes and swipes and followers. It's unthinkable that we don't turn around and go, we are creating a collective death called extinction based upon human consciousness in our behaviors. It's mind-blowing. Me too, I'm in that boat, in that car. I write on. Why bicker over spiritual platitudes, political mumbo-jumbo, and conspiratorial rabbit holes when the sixth mass extinction is occurring at a pace far faster than the 5 previous extinctions combined, including the Great Dying some 252 million years ago that wiped out 90% of all life. The existential wall of extinction terrified me, but it was envisioning the final dystopian seconds before midnight that compelled me to consider my own painless release through mindful euthanasia. I took out the 500 micrograms of acid I brought for this special occasion, a final fight to possibly lift me higher and give me a sense of hope to carry on, while on the other hand, I took out a perfectly lethal amount of morphine in a clear plastic syringe to take my life, should that be the more enlightened action before the stroke of midnight. Unplanned book in this room, an auto-fictional reality that I documented, took notes, spoken to an audio recorder, and here I am reading this thing and I'm going like, oh my God, I feel even more connected to it now with the prognosis, with the perceptions than ever before, and I'll get more into it at the end of this little short excerpt. I held up both futures in the same hand, the acid and the morphine, and contemplated which one first and which one last. As I reflected on the two options, I heard the doomsday clock ticking in my heart, which reminded me how long I had been planning this sacred moment. And now that it was here, there was a strange sense of excitement to be so close to a final truth. Thank you for hanging in with me during this process. The next section, calling for clarity. After an hour-long meditation of listening to my heart, I cranked Eye of the Tiger, the theme song of Rocky, and rose to the occasion, left the syringe of morphine on its side, drank down the acid with organic Red Bull, and strutted around the very room that I'm in right now as if readying to enter the ring with the devil himself. And as I danced, I heard Bob in my mind saying, "Alan, the bell has rung. The fight has begun." But my surge of vitality was short-lived. As I doubted myself, is hope a fantasy, I asked? Is the climate collapse truly irreversible? Are we really past the tipping point, as in over the cliff? Is extinction baked in, as in no way to stop from hitting the wall? Or even slowing the clock down? And if we could, how? I sat down in Bob's favorite chair that I'm sitting in right now and reflected on my dear friend, looking for direct access to his spirit and inspiration. Bob was both an elegant pragmatist and a hardcore fighter. He came from poverty in the Bronx, went on to Union College and Columbia University Law School, and then drove to Hollywood at 30, knowing no one and nothing about the film industry. Here he hustled, making connections, learning the business, and moreover, never giving up. As a lawyer with charm and integrity, he quickly won the hearts of fledgling stars and studio heads who made film deals. Through an unflinching drive, a golden thumb, and an innovative sense of storytelling, Bob quickly reached producer stardom and the heights of Hollywood celebrity. Known for his lavish parties and astute professionalism, he drew some of the most gifted talent into his productions, including Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, John Borman, Lou Carlino, Ken Russell, Sam Jackson, Philip Kaufman, Julie Taymor, Tom Wolfe, Rudolph Nureyev, Sam Shepard, Lee Marvin, Sylvester Stallone, and many dozens of other greats. Bob once told me, with a wry laugh, how he was offered the role of producing the Beatles before they came to America, but turned it down, quote, to remain focused on filmmaking and myth-making. Bob was, in every sense, an icon of the American dream, whereas Rocky was the crown jewel of his own archetypal expression of rags to riches, and an offering to everyone who was ever at their bottom, that they too can fight back to achieve their dream. Bob was a brilliant friend, and today I'm reminded of his fighting spirit when he called from the hospital and said, "Alan, the doctor just came in and left and told me they found an inoperable cancerous tumor on my pancreas, and I have 3 weeks to live. After a long silence, he concluded, I'm calling to say I love you. Our friendship speaks for itself. It has brought me some of the most memorable moments of my life. We talked for a while longer. Until he concluded with a halting voice while holding back tears. Remember, Alan, and I've told you many times, you're among the finest talent I've ever known. Use your gifts, your voice, your heart, your storytelling, your genius, and never give up. Bob did not go easily. He fought on and defying medical certainty. Lived for another 2 years. In part, not only because of his tireless spirit of Rocky, but his deep and genuine spiritual grace, along with the epic support of his beloved wife, Jenny, who devoted herself with saintly service to the man of her dreams right up to his final breath here in the very house of Rocky on June 10, 2015. I was blessed to have married them back in 1990 after a long courtship. The last 2 pages of this excerpt, this section, and I will conclude with a little wrap-up. Thank you for being part of this sharing. This section of the mandala is called Contemplating the End. As the acid came on, I dove deep inside, searching for evidence of hope to face yet another day, while honoring this sacred space as a gift from Jenny, as she returned to their country farm in Canada to be near family and shelter with their daughter from the COVID storm. As a temporary oasis with no future known, I reflected, there's no monastery to escape to, no home to go, no parents to see, no partner to embrace, no trauma to heal, no book to read to guide me home, no retreat to conduct, nothing to do other than to cry and feel and look more honestly into the abyss. Here we are, 8 billion of us on this tiny orb, a self-annihilating, selfie-obsessed species careening over the cliff. And with us taking out millions of non-human species into the 6th mass extinction. Yet we do little to nothing to change our ways and blindly follow in the footsteps of Einstein's infamous dictum, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results? Are we merely a two-legged, flesh-draped species of magical thinking zombies, programmed by a malevolent DNA to kill, rape, and self-destruct, and repeat it epoch by epoch with a smile of denial? Why are we fighting over politics and ownership and race and color and creed rather than nurturing a love of nature and finding bridges of cooperation, sustainability, and peaceful coexistence? Or do we all deserve to crash and burn and die and rid our Mother Earth of this genocidal, deviant strain called human life? I see a large hardback book on the table in front of me. It's the complete collection of cartoons from the New Yorker magazine. I thumb through it slowly as if excavating the ancient ruins of Western civilization for dark comedic clues of how to save the world from the plague of human hubris. I turn to a page that stops me. There's a man mindfully poised, as if frozen in his stillness at a fork in the road. I entered the cartoon and let it speak to me. The left fork had a sign that read, "The life you could have led," and the right fork read, "The life you will lead." And I'm thinking, isn't that the essential dilemma of the human experience? Life is the result of choices, good ones and bad ones, a never-ending set of crossroads, weekly, hourly, every second, every movement, choices, wise ones, dumb ones, and numb ones. And here in the last paragraphs, with every inhalation of a cigarette is now the time to stop. Every drink, give me just one more and I'll quit. Every page of a book turned, every word read, every letter chosen in a text, every breath, every divorce and every hour of legal fees started with a kiss at the crossroads. If only I wasn't colorblind and hadn't translated the red flag for green. So much for chemistry as a guide to wise choices. "Oh, for God's sake, Alan," I retorted. "You of all people know there's only now." And all roads lead back to the present, which brought me and my mindfulness back to the morphine in front of me, and I imagined how easy it would be to inject. But instead of ending the future, I closed my eyes in mindful reflection on the past, a free-flowing serendipity of how I arrived at this final crossroads of either ongoing life or a mindful death. And allow me to close today this talk on uncertain futures and dancing with the angel of death. I knew none of what I know today when I was documenting that dialogue in my heart and mind with no intention of writing and producing a book. It was eventually, without fanfare, self-published 36 hours after it was released, talking to my beloved dear friend Janine Davies in Vancouver on FaceTime. I had an incredibly sharp pain in my chest and my heart. I went to ER. We both concluded, get there. And through a CAT scan, they found this acutely enlarged ascending aorta aneurysm. And the surgeon at UCLA on Zoom said, you've got a ticking bomb in your heart that requires immediate, radical, open heart surgery for you to live or survive that's complicated. And I went, holy fuck. Is that really true? And it's been surreal now. Here it is, nearly 2 months later, June 10th. What a journey. I knew nothing about the military radical coup in Burma, except by the first week of it. And the satanic level of what's going down in that country has compounded the conundrum in my own heart right now. I could never have predicted. And I know in a million years, no, in 5 minutes, if I knew what I know today about the plight of Aung San Suu Kyi and the satanic evil happening to my family and Dharma friends in Burma, the unthinkable pathology of Dr. Anthony Fauci and is being exposed with his deep pharmaceutical, financial, evil ties to the bioweapons lab in Wuhan and how traced that information is. And he looks right at the camera of mainstream media and lies. And we, willing sheep, lining up for jabs of a toxic vaccine. QAnon me, no. We're in a war on consciousness. It's a war on survival, depopulation, radical totalitarianism. I knew all this during the writing of the book, but never at the extent that I know now. And I asked myself, if I knew what I know today on June 10th, I would have injected that morphine right there into my body and taken my own mindful life. I am no way in doubt of that. And I have to say, I am so unclear about the future of my life. I quake with an existential fear, not an emotional one alone. I don't know what June 25th will bring. When I get off that flight in Kahului on Maui and get picked up and be taken to this astronomical car rental cost to be staying with a friend in their guest house temporarily, to find a place at super high rent, to live in what? To heal. From what? An extinction? An aneurysm that's global? There's a part of me, and I don't know about a part of you, and I don't mean to, throw out despair here or negative energy. I'm doing all that I can possibly do to radically trust in something deeper and more courageous than the breaking of my own heart, the breaking of the earth, the breaking of the promise of trust. But I ask myself every day, every noon, every evening, why live? I am so in trajectory of navigating my own Dhammaparami karmic causal path from human life into Tusita realm, the desired location of my next rebirth, my next birth with the Maitreya, which I've written about in this book. I never lost Bob summoning. Alan, never give up. Doesn't mean about living. It means about not compromising. Integrity. Integrity to means Dhamma integrity. Dhamma integrity means my resolute conviction in the evolution of my paramis, the qualities of my colors of consciousness for the liberation of myself. Figuratively speaking, from greed, anger, and delusion, nibbāna has never been more radiant as an aspiration in my life. The Arhat ideal, I want to commune in a sapio dhamma sexual celebration with my samsaric sangha. This life? Yes, I am calling forth sisters, brothers, if we're alive, if I'm alive, if it all works out, may there be this splendid mansion in Lower Kula, gifted, I looked online for $2.7 million, a beautiful home. Who's got $2.7 million to bequeath to my nonprofit? Every penny of it is tax deductible. Billions and billions, the top 25 billionaires in this country of mine. Bezos, Musk, they made over $1 trillion in the last 5 years. They paid collectively $14 billion in taxes. Hey guys, hey Mr. Musk, throw out $2.7 million into the account and own that property. Yes, that's not highfalutin. I would like a reason to live, to allow friends and family, new people into my life, the gift of shared space. I would like some space. I'm asking for the hardest thing in the world for me, is to ask. I've been encouraged by my beloved friend Aura. You have every right to ask right now. You must ask. It's not asking out of need. It's an invitation to commune and to celebrate. I want to dance. I want to radiate. I want to play in the field of nibbāna. I don't want to buy food and talk about my fucking health. I don't want to deal with climate change and taxes and stagflation and radical leftism and Biden and Kamala and the border and immigration and Fauci and the lies of our country and the world and the war and Xi Jinping and activism. Yes, next generation, boys and girls, Gen X, Gen Z, Gen double X, Gen quadruple X. Take over, fight the good fight, but please support the vision. And if it doesn't work out on Maui, and I'm going to give it a little bit of time, I want to try to bring together something where I can live in peace for a month or 2 or 3 and have my beloveds come and join me. Pray my daughter, Sarabella, you come and visit and be there. Commune, dance with the butterflies, pick mangoes. I want to have a few goats and a few cats. I want sacred, safe space. I want a home, temporary as it is. It'll be placed in trust in our nonprofit. Make anything you want out of it. And if it's not going to be Maui, after my CT scan in the middle of July, I'll head back to sacred Bali and carry on and enter that long cherished period, God willing, of communing. I really want to create my Sri Lankan experience on the island Hermitage, where I could hear the sounds. I could look up at crystals and see rainbows. I could see devas and I could commune. I heard music and song and ancient poetics. I could feel liberation in each breath 1,000,000 different ways. It was very exciting. I want to meditate in ways I've never known, but it requires the sanctity, the safety of bills being paid and protection, a kind of cognitive, not firewall, but a sanctity wall of silence, peace. Don't you crave that? Isn't that nibbāna? Nibbāna on earth, a safe zone. I don't want to go to someone else's meditation center. I feel very, very sensitive. Hopefully you can appreciate this, as if I'm on a high dose of psilocybin. The company that you're in, the setting that you're in, it just can't be a stranger because they're Buddhist. I feel so immeasurably, not naked, but so immeasurably transparent, don't you? If I did even a low dose right now, it's probably 1,000 micrograms of acid. And yes, I want to do that too. I want to make love. I want to commune. I want to visualize, dance, and make poetry and document the evidence of this liberation for the boys and girls that live beyond me and you. But most of all, I want to heal the aorta. I've got an agenda. I want to heal the aneurysm. The best surgeons in America are saying, magical thinking, Mr. Clements, ticking bomb. Tick, tuck. You will die. I've heard that so many times in 2 months now. I'm not saying that out of some negative prediction, Mr. Clements, but I've been at this thing now for 35 years, operating on thousands of people. You were miraculously found. Most die in the SK disease, silent killer. We found your aorta. But I understand that you have to do what you have to do. And there's some of these surgeons that go, hey man, this dude's on it. This dude's on it. You get a CT scan 3 months from the day of diagnosis. We don't know how long it's been there. July 11th to 3 months. I'll give it another week. Kahului General Hospital, here I come with the CT scan and have my doctors here in Los Angeles look at it. Has the motherfucker grown? And if it's grown 1 goddamn millimeter, which is way too much, they say a natural growth is 1 millimeter in a year. It's like my way of processing the edge here. Thank you here in this final minutes of this rave. It's not getting any easier. I don't even fancy getting in a car to get to the airport. I want someone to hold my hand. I want someone to hold my body. I want someone to transport me right to a home on Maui. I want it. Yes, yes, yes. Call forth. Look at the unthinkable people with wealth out there, not the top 25 billionaires, all these philanthropists, even these Buddhist meditation teachers with millions and millions and millions of both cash and loot and land. Millions and millions and millions. Bequeath a little bit of this, dudes in Silicon Valley and New York with your stock options. Bequeath a little bit, and I'm inviting openly, freely. I want to commune. I don't want to just do this alone, but I don't want ordinary conversation. I'm going to have 10 commandments on my psychic door, my material door, of do's and don'ts when you enter this sacred space. That's appropriate, just like in a monastery, things that you did and things that you didn't do. I want to create something that I remember in my heart and my memory bank. But I want to create it in a way that co-creates something that's never been done in my own life. If I'm going to go out, which we're all going to go out, I want it to be done not in a bang, not in a boom, but a really sonic kind of interwoven, existential, sexy, eroticized, cool, arhantified, spoken word, meditative, poetic, rave to the devil saying, I see you, dance angel, and please relax your fear in yourself and projecting it on me. I want to be liberated in this life and transition to my samsaric sangha here in this life, to my next location. Pray my parami and my aditant is sufficiently rooted in satya and truth. My dhamma is deeply rooted in integrity. I want to take a rebirth into Sita dimension, where it's said, and I end the book here with exactly what I'm saying to you here to me, in my own Dhamma scream in the last 10 pages, I want to reunite with my goddess, my God, my ally, my brother, my sister, my lover, my mother, my father, the reuniting of every boy and girl and entity that's ever been in my life of high value. Even if you've created hell for me and I've learned how to love and be patient in the face of your assholeness, I want you to commune in this next existence, and I want to hear a Buddha teach. The last of the 24 in this cycle of Buddhas, Maitreya. I want to be around those boys and girls as devas, make love for 1,000,000 trillion years and to create castles of freedom, poems and songs, and have dinner parties that never end, nor do we ever get filled. Orgasms that never stop or start. It is the way in which we breathe. A rapture that's so balanced that we can free ourselves in any given moment because we're part of the Dhamma. We're not going to be attached to it, but we're going to play in the most rarefied forms of existential tantra, within the field of samsara. Come play with me in that trans Rumi-esque Buddha field, right? And then take our final birth in a human realm. And it said there are so many Manusalokas, so many earth-like places that are human dimensions. Some that live only a 5, 10, 20 years, some that live 60, 80, 100 years, some that live 100,000 up to 1,000,000 or more years. We're in a Manusa bandwidth where the UFOs occupy as well. Heightened intelligence. We're going to be reborn there with Maitreya in his final life as a Buddha. All based on theory found within the Tipitaka, all ingested through the filter of my own mindful intelligence. I want to live these Dhamma truths. Through my own Dhamma experience, I feel the validity of these words on an emotional level. These aren't just memorized hymns or prayers through a religiosity. My Dhamma conviction, like yours, I pray, is rooted in direct, immediate, intimate, transformational experience. That's the beauty of Dhamma. It is not a dogma to cloak our lives in fear with. It's a transparency of nakedness where we're so free we can be in freezing cold, in blizzards and heat, and we're liberated beyond temperature and fear and location and narratives of mortality. Nibbāna, the deathless, taking birth with the Buddha. Wouldn't that be so rad? To develop the full spectrum of Abhinya psychic powers, but equally the transformational power of, I'll close here, radically overcoming the conditionality driving the wheel of paticca samuppada. Kama and vipaka and vedana, perception, consciousness and form, in an endless cycle of death and rebirth, here, now, there, overcoming all forms of lobha, attachment. So cool. The snowflake melts. And here, in that nibbāna field, we are with a Buddha. We've married, we've made love, we've cried, we've touched, we've meditated, but we all know in each other's soul, heart, trans heart, mind, trans mind, that we have freed ourselves from primordial forces of violence. We have ended the war in samsara, in our own beingness. Emptiness is achieved. Anatta is realized, and nibbāna is understood as the primordial source of all things. Will you come and play with me in that field of freedom? Lovers, friends, enemies that want to forgive yourself, I'm not seeking your forgiveness, but I will release you from the contempt towards me. I have also created wrong events in my life through action, through thought and speech. I've done everything and through this book and through my meditation to relieve myself of shame, guilt, and anger. I am released from my self-disappointments. I am living in respect. If you want to know, even if I died tonight, Alan died in the radiance, I want no memorial. I want no celebration. I want no one coming over anywhere. I don't want my ashes put any one place. Move on. Taking birth where I want to go. I might live out a few more years. It won't be much longer, if that. I don't have the life force. I'm okay, maybe. Who knows? I'll fall so wildly in love with the goddess of the transparent Deva that I walk beyond even touching the earth. I'm walking on water now with my psychedelicized, tantrified lover of freedom in a trans-celibate liberation. Who knows what could. I don't want to write another book, do an online course. They're all coming, but who gives a fuck? Meditation isn't cross-legged anymore, yet that too, but I want to commune with my samsaric sangha, and I want to be with the next Buddha. That's a deep longing in my Chaitanya field, my intention field. By way of saying, if I never give another talk, I've laid it out. And those of you who love me, those of you who respect me, just hear it. Let the ashes go, no morbid thing here, no predict your own death. Listen, dude, get the surgery, save your life, right? Okay, fine. Sounds really groovy. Terribly complicated, horrifically invasive. And then what? A second aneurysm, a third aneurysm. Someone sent me a video or a picture the other day of Albert Einstein, of all things. How did he die? Aorta aneurysm. The video in the film, the picture says he chose to die elegantly without surgery. I did a search, but 6 years before, at my age, he was diagnosed because of incredible pain with an aorta aneurysm, in which he chose to have the surgery. It gave him 6 more years, and it ruptured. And he chose at that time, in this picture, not to have another surgery and let me die elegantly. Well, I am personally choosing at this time not to even have any surgery. I want not psychic surgery. I'm not driven by healing. I'm just not driven by wanting to be an earthling. I've lived a long life. I'm 70. I've done everything. I've had lovers, incredible lovers. I've traveled the world. I've never worked really. I hate working. I've lived so lightly on this planet. I've pursued my dream on stages and monasteries. I've gone to war zones, no heroics to me. I just simply wanted to learn from the people under the horrors of genocide and ethnic cleansing, and what is it like to live in a refugee camp. I've had people offer their last morsels of food to me who I've never even known by name. And I think of the boys and girls in Burma, my friend Daw Aung San Suu Kyi and U Win Taint and so many others. They're attacking and arresting their mothers and fathers. It's evil. And I think of that. It's like, oh my God, my heart breaks. My heart didn't break over Burma. My compassion and my empathy, my resolve evolved based on having my own modicum of courage to feel my family. That's not a heartbreak. That's the development of parami. It's a heartbreak to be alive, to feel the end of life, to think that we're in the Anthropocene, that we're in over the cliff, that my daughter may not ever have a family, that she may die at a young age, times 100 million other girls and boys her age, that all the non-humans, the butterflies, the squirrels. I saw one of my squirrels the other day, dead, and I cried over my squirrel. My squirrel. It was just like, fuck, it wasn't my squirrel. It was like life gets killed. And there it is. Where did it go? My samsaric sangha tusita. It's a fucked environment. The Buddha got it so right. What I could say on the outside of it all. There are moments, yes, where you have to trust, but it can work out so badly even then. Welcome to Auschwitz, right? Welcome to Dachau. I'm on the train with my little bag of luggage going straight to Zyklon Central. Cyanide capsules, killing everyone in my family and my village. Killing after killing. A genocide in Burma, Rakhine State, Karen State, Shan State, the torture and rape going on right now in the prisons in Burma around the world. Stay alive to do what? To meditate, to become enlightened? Yes. I want to give it everything I possibly can, boys and girls, friends and lovers, allies, sisters, uncles, wherever you are, devas. Please, may I ask of you, I really do wish for support. I'll carry on without it. If you want to support me, please do through Patreon, through our nonprofit, the Buddhasasana Foundation, through PayPal. Again, I'm asking, if you want to buy land, I saw a property in Lower Kula 200 just yesterday, 2.7 million, 2 acres. You can build all of the yurts you want on it and come live with me for free. Please make it mine. Offer it to the donation to the Buddhasasana Foundation, 100% tax-free. Or gather as friends and say, how can we do this? Do it, please. May I encourage it. I am asking from my heart for support for us to do something never been done before. I'm a believer in the magic of more than just one. I'm a Sangha-based community type, loving the intimacy and not too close. But I want, knowing that I've lived in monasteries, I'll close here, I want to create something that I've never, ever in a million years done. I can think about it. I want to radiate infinite waves inside and outside in all dimensions with a radiant level of unconditional metta. I want to send healing, liberating support for the men and women in Burma and to be released from the prisons. I could never in a million years imagine the impotence, I have to get this out of my heart, the impotence of the world community letting Burma fall and die on the stage of international media and our icon friend leaders living in a torturous prison, being paraded before an Orwellian military tribunal by this sicko Ming Online, possessed by his patedom, his devadattadom, his evildom, mainlining Xi Jinping and Putin. If I knew what I know today based upon what's going down, there's no doubt I would have injected that syringe of morphine months ago. But now the fight is on, not just for my own life, my own salvation, my own health. You might be thinking, don't work yourself up, Alan, you're going to just die here on the spot. Well, so be it. So be it. I want to feel until the last breath is felt the truth of living truthfully out loud. I don't want to play it safe or calm. I'm told not to pick up things bigger than 10 pounds. Not to drive, not to fly, not, ticking bomb, ticking bomb, ticking bomb. Short fuse, doomsday clock, your own extinction, tick-tock. Get the surgery, save your life, save your life. Well, I want to create with you the Dhamma miracle cure, and the cure for overcoming and at least challenging primordial despair. I don't want to participate in despair. This is not despair. This is sacred, wild, beautiful rage. I took a lot of years to get to this level of passionate expression. It took a lot of vulnerability to get on those stages unprepared and do spiritually incorrect. Those of you who've been in my life know back in 2003, I wanted to break out of the Dharma teacher mold and got out there and just said, hey, fuck it, man. I want to speak from my soul in an improvisational rave and keep alive freedom, not articulation. I don't want to be a seal on a ball to entertain you from your own fucking passivity. I just want to be rad and truthful, creative. It may not be that fucking funny on the spot, but spontaneity of the spoken word in itself is liberating if you give yourself the organic orgasm of integrity to that which is coming through you, right? Take voice lessons from someone who knows the power of vision through freedom living energy through your voice. Voice is everything. Hey, over there, Burma, you're not alone. Hey, Mr. Biden, use your voice. Don't use proxies with press releases. Send that medical ship, paint 3 fingers on the deck, give them crypto wallets like the incredible, brilliant president of El Salvador, legalizing Bitcoin as legal tender. You can even buy an ice cream cone with Bitcoin. So rad. May it go global. May Bitcoin be used by the civil disobedience movement in Burma. May it be legalized in Burma by the national unity government and unifying all the ethnic armed groups. Use Bitcoin. Give up the jat. Leave the jat in its evil incarnation to the evil incarnation himself, Ming Online in the military. Let them beg you for Bitcoin. Have an alternative economy. How's that? So I want to be in a rave. I want to do a show called Deadman Walking Freedom Never Dies. I want to do it both on Maui, whether it be at a theater or open forum publicly. I want to do the, coming to an end here, I want to do my weekly Q&A World Dharma Forum on Zoom. If you're interested, text and write, but we'll announce it soon, only for about 10 people a week. And if I don't find that home is in Maui, I'm off to Bali, God willing, where I will do the Deadman Walking Freedom Never Dies at the Paradiso in Ubud. I'll do live groups. I want to do a retreat there, all for free, all Dana-based. And all of you are invited in my life to participate in the co-creation of an expression unique to you, your own world Dharma, not a Buddhist Dharma, but a world Dharma, where freedom of thought, speech, and action is the poetry of our hearts. And may that freedom poetry, in my case, heal my aorta. Yes, I would like it to reduce in size. I'd like to know that I have some months and years to live. I want to do the simplest of things. I want to have fun. I want to be romantically charmed by the existential goddess of freedom and dreams. I want to write and create spontaneous poems. I want to smell flowers. I want to see my daughter again, Sarabella, come to Maui with Nini. I want to. That to me is the life pulse, right? Hearing myself out loud. Yes, you're wanting to live, Alan. Stay with that voice. Encourage that voice in me. And let's be mindful of anything that comes along on that journey. So from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of my life. Thank you for your support emotionally, financially, and pray real estate-wise as well. And if you're interested in going further in my book, Extinction X-Rated, it's available on Amazon. Mr. Bezos, how about a nice donation to the Buddhasasana Foundation? I'd be honored if you read it. You wrote a radical review, like a number of people, more recently by my friend Tess. Thank you, Tess. Thank you, Robin. And I look forward to your thoughts. It's unvarnished, it's radical, it's honest, it's pure, and I think ultimately it's an expression of fuck it, stay alive and fight on, like my Bob friend who I adore, Alan, never fucking give up. So from my heart to yours, thank you.